What is up, guys? Welcome back to another episode here on Futbol Asada. I'm your host, Andre, with my co-host, Chris.
What up, boys and girls?
Yep. And before we get started, make sure to click the links down below to join our Discord and follow all our social media pages. We'd highly appreciate it. But let's get instantly started. As you guys can see from the title, we're going to be debating and discussing the team we believe was the best Mexican team of all time, the best era. Simple. So we'll start off with Chris because you guys might be a little surprised by this.
I know everyone right away is going to point to our two biggest achievements, or maybe three, like the 1986 team was the last team that made the Quinto Partido, and I believe they only lost in penalties to West Germany. Or
But before you continue, if we would have witnessed maybe like the 1999 teams and all that, we probably would have said that, but we didn't. We're way younger than that. So before any of the older people start saying something in the comments.
Exactly. So that's why I can't name that one. I also can't really name the 99 one. Like, even though it's a great achievement, we were like the hosts, and Brazil's team wasn't like all that like yet. Like, they had like a young Ronaldinho, not a prime Ronaldinho. But it was still a great achievement. We still talk about the Confederations Cup till the end of time. And then obviously the 2012 Olympic team, which was, I think that's probably the craziest achievement ever. Like, just the circumstances. Like, we beat insane prime Brazil team. But that's still not the best version of Mexico I think I ever saw. For me, my favorite, and I just think this was the best team, like the best moment, the best year of La Selección ever, was the 2011 team, and specifically during the 2011 Gold Cup. And now people might be thinking like, oh, how can you say that team is just a Gold Cup? It's not bigger than the Confederations Cup. It's not bigger than the Olympics. I agree that the tournament is not. But let me just let me give you some stats and facts about that 2011 team. In that Gold Cup, outside of Mexico, this was like prime CONCACAF. Like, this is probably the most talent ever assembled in a Gold Cup. Like, if you look at us, like, we had a prime Chicharito, a prime Giovanni, a prime Andres Guardado. We had Rafa Marquez still. We had Pablo Barrera. Like, Mexico was stacked. The U.S. had four of the greatest players of all time: Donovan, Dempsey, Michael Bradley, Tim Howard. Like, Costa Rica had Keylor Navas, and he hardly ever plays Gold Cups. That might be one of his only ones. He was there. Keylor Navas, Brian Ruiz, I believe Joe Campbell was already there. Celso Borges, like, they were stacked. Honduras, during their golden generation, when they had players playing for Tottenham and in the Prem, they had Jerry Bankston, Carlos Cosley. They were in their peak as well. And then you can obviously point to Panama, who had Blas Perez, Tejada, like, also very good players. Even Guatemala had Pescadito Ruiz. So this was point is, this was prime CONCACAF. And yet Mexico in this tournament, I believe, still holds the record for most goals ever in a Gold Cup. They scored 22 goals in this tournament, I think averaging almost 4 a game. And it was actually 4 games in which they scored 4+ goals. 4 games in which they scored 4+. They only conceded 4 all tournament, a plus 18 goal differential. Opening game, we win 5-0. Second game, we win 5-0 against Cuba. We beat a prime Costa Rica 4-1, where we were beating them 4-0 in the first 40 minutes of the game. I don't know if you guys remember that Andres Guardado banger. Like, if you do, then you're goated. And then also we beat the U.S. from being down 2-0, we beat them 4-2 in the final, scoring 4 goals. Again, those 4 goals were all like within a 30-40 minute span. Like, we were like blitzing teams. Like, our attack was on fire. I have never seen a version of Mexico like that in my life. Like, heading into that tournament and through that tournament, I believe since Chepo de la Torre's hiring, I think Mexico went like on a 20-something game unbeaten run. And that tournament was in the middle of that. Like, this was prime Mexico for me. Like, I know it was just a Gold Cup, but the things they were doing, like, we don't ever see that anymore, bro. Like, when was the last time you've seen Mexico just dismantle everyone in a Gold Cup? That has not happened. This was the only time where I think Mexico won every single game, and like convincingly. Like, they destroyed everyone. On top of that, like, I'm looking at the stats here. In this tournament, Mexico had 5 players score at least 3 goals in this tournament. No other team in the tournament had more than 2. And that was Honduras. Only Honduras had more than 2 players that scored more than 3+. Mexico had 5. It was Chicharito who scored 7 goals, and he was a starting striker. The starting left mid, Guardado, had 3. The starting cam, Giovanni, had 3. The starting right mid, Barrera, had 3. Our backup striker, the Nigris, finished as the joint second top goal scorer with 4 goals. This team was insane. Like, this is Chicharito coming off his best ever season at Manchester United, arguably his best season of his career. Like, prime Gio, prime Guardado, like, Rafa Marquez was still in the team. And Mexico did all this while having Memo Ochoa, Carlos Vela, and I believe Marco Fabian, like, all suspended because it was like some, like, what do they call, like, when you eat contaminated meat?
Disciplinary issue.
I know. I think it was like a supposedly like some drug issue, but it was like a contaminated meat that they ate. Imagine if those guys had been in the team too, because they were supposed to be there.
Vela.
Like this team was absolutely cracked. Again, like, and a record amount of goals scored, record amount of goal differential, destroying all these prime teams. Like, they're not It's not like the Gold Cup of today, or like we're playing Panama in the final, barely winning 1-0, or like playing a US B team and barely like, or even losing. No, like we were smashing like some of the greatest CONCACAF teams like of their golden generations. We were smashing them. That's why I think this 2011 team, that had been a World Cup year, like if that had happened like in 2010, I believe Mexico would have definitely got to a quinto partido, maybe even beyond. I was genuinely convinced like that was the funnest and most exciting team I have ever seen in my life. So I would have to go with the 2011 team.
It's crazy that Chepo de la Torre only lasted like that was his only ever good like performance that tournament because after that he got sacked after not being able to because he was there at the 2013 Gold Cup, right?
Yes, I
And we were
believe so.
just terrible. But yes, I'd agree that that was the most like entertaining and like invincible team like I've ever seen in terms of the tournament because going into every game I was just so confident we're gonna smack everyone and like you just said we did in the group stage. We scored 14 goals, only conceded one. That's a plus 13 goal difference. That's absolutely mental, man. Mental. I think the only tough game we really had was against Guatemala for some weird reason where we barely scraped a 2-1 win. I think it was a Chicharito winner and late in the game. But yeah, man, that whole tournament plus the jerseys too. I think that pushes it a lot of those the black and the green jerseys. Those were beautiful.
Oh, and then let me add one thing. I don't know why, because you said Jersey, it reminded me of this. Also, the golazos we were scoring in that tournament, bro, like Guardado's golazo, Gio's golazo, like we were insane. Like everything about that tournament was like perfect.
There was bangers on bangers. But for me, I'm obviously going to say the 2014 World Cup because obviously we didn't score as many goals in that tournament as the Gold Cup. It's a World Cup. It's completely different. But I just felt like as a kid in that moment, I felt like Mexico could really shock anyone in the world at that time. If you would have put Germany in front of us, if you would have put Spain, Portugal, I would really feel confident because that's just the vibe that Mexico team gave me. It gave me heart. It gave me passion. It gave me a dark horse team that could go really far. And we were close to obviously securing that against the Netherlands. So I'll say the 2014 team, but another team that goes in my mind is obviously the 2012 Olympics because that was a young generation that really gave us Mexicans a lot of hope. Like, oh, a lot of these players, they might become something later on. Like Diego Reyes at the time was really good. Obviously, Gio. Who's that one bald like CDM? What was his name? Chaton?
Chaton Enriquez.
He was
Yeah.
pretty good at the time.
Marco Fabian.
Marco Fabian. Like, and we didn't lose a single. Yeah, I don't think we lost a game even in the group stage. I think we
Nope.
drew one. Let me make sure.
Yeah, we drew the opening game, and I think we won every single game after that.
There you go. And obviously, Gio was on fire that tournament. Unfortunately, he couldn't play the final, but I mean, that's my favorite player. And just seeing him ball out in this tournament, it just really gave me like excitement, you know? Same with the Gold Cup, like you just said. I say those two tournaments for me for sure. That's the most fun. That's the most happiest I was. But for you guys watching, let us know in the comments which team or which Mexico era you think was the best. If you're older and you got to witness like 1980s and the 1990s teams, like let us know where we listen to all your comments. One team I really wished to have seen that I didn't was the 2006 La Volpe team. Or just that era of La Volpe, like 2000, what was it, 2004 through 2006?
2003 or 2002, I think, 2006. He had like the whole cycle, I believe.
Because I'm always hearing how good La Volpe was and how these other managers, even current managers, use La Volpe's philosophy and methodology. So I would really have wanted to see that Mexico team, how they play, how they managed to beat a lot of these big teams like Brazil in their prime. It's the last time we beat Argentina, which was with La Volpe. So I probably would have wished to have witnessed that.
I will say something about that La Volpe era. It is very interesting because I felt like every time we like again, that team also kind of gave me the same belief you're talking about. Those La Volpe teams of like 05, 06. Because they beat Brazil in the Confederations Cup. They almost eliminated Argentina. I think they lost some penalties in the Confederations Cup as well. They barely lost to Germany, who were the hosts of the Confederations Cup that year, 4-3. And in the World Cup, they had a very good game against who at the time were the World Cup favorites, Argentina, where we barely lost on a Maxi Rodriguez banger. So he had like some very, very, very like he would always have us play up to the competition, which was very good. And you'd always like love having that belief that you like even though you're Mexico, you can beat anyone in the world on your day. But La Volpe for me is a tad bit overrated in the sense that we also had some very, very, very bad performances. Like in the
Angola.
World Cup, in the World Cup, we tied Angola, bro.
Like, what is that?
Like Angola that's their only ever World Cup appearance. That might be their only World Cup ever like point, to be honest with
Point.
you. Like when we tied them 0-0, like so you go from tying Angola 0-0, but then like you're giving Argentina the game of their life like a week later. Like it was just very up and down for me. That's why I can't really give it more credit. One team I will give slight credit to that I would not be surprised someone says this is the 2007 Copa America team. That team was very exciting. I'm not saying it was the best, but it was exciting. Like we beat Paraguay 6-0. We beat Brazil 2-0. We beat Uruguay in the third place game 3-1. Like that team was exciting as well.
Neri
We finished third
Castillo.
place in that tournament. Yeah, that was a Neri Castillo tournament. Like that was they finished third place, so that's also a very good show.
We hope you guys enjoyed this video though. Like I just said in the middle of the video, let us know in the comments which team you believe is the best, or if you agree with one of us, let us know. Make sure to hit the post notifications to be informed when we upload next week. And yeah, man, thank you guys for the support. We will see you guys next week.